Good morning with another 30 minutes with Jan all the way from Welcome Bay. Lovely morning this morning. We started off, I would say, with a lovely week. We had a few days that was absolutely bliss. Yesterday was one of those days where the water was just enticing us to come and play, but we could not because we had to come and work. But this morning it has changed. It looks like it's going forward to the weekend. We will have some bit more rainy weather. This morning we're talking to Vanita all about immigration. Good morning, Vanita.
Good morning, Jan. Good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are well.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. Yeah, we've actually had really good weather over the past 2-3 days, Jan.
Okay,
It's sort of like, it's almost like the smell of spring, but then I'm wondering when the rain's going to start again, so we'll see.
If I look out of my window, I think the rain is not very far away from us today.
It's actually 15 degrees up here, but it's quite overcast today.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we also started off with about 15 degrees this morning, but it is misty. It looks like a real winter mist thing that we're having. So,
yeah.
But as I always say, after two bad days in New Zealand, you get Monday. So I think chances of going to the ocean this weekend is probably out for most of us, but you are into the immigration game. I read something this week about the minister that has been removed, our immigration minister that has been removed. So I want to say to you what I read. They said immigration handbrake removed. Is that so?
Jan, so not really. Look,
you don't sound that positive.
Look, we try to be positive, but to be honest, it's not removed, okay? We're going to have border closures and border restrictions right up to January 2022. And that's where 2022. So this is where all the policy changes that have been announced are taking you up to 2022, which is 18 months or just under 18 months.
Okay.
So there is not going to be any ease with regards to finding jobs, with regards to immigrating. If you're thinking of it, I think you're going to need to actually rethink your plan and push that out for another 18 to 24 months.
Okay.
We've noticed a slowing down of visa issuing while applications are in and they meet the criteria of that particular category. We've noticed immigration not making decisions on those visa applications. We don't know why that's the case. Obviously, with regards to residents, we know that there's a huge backlog, and that's because there's no residence program. And I think I've mentioned this before, and a lot of people have. And I think the residence program may only be set after the elections that will happen in October. So that's pretty much so. So look, to be honest, things are still tough, and the migrants that are here are finding it quite tough. There's been like a whole lot of changes, but I think the feeling is there's a lot of stressed out people, and a lot of people are listening to other people and not looking at their own situation. So they're all sort of working themselves up and going into this negative state where they probably need to actually think specifically about themselves. While the forms are the same, every single case is different. And that's what it's treated as, different. Yeah. And I think, like we get frantic people or stressed out people calling and sort of saying, oh, what's going to happen? I've heard the visa categories are removed, or I've heard that now the remuneration is 80,000. You need to consider what you are on currently and what that pathway is for you. So those people really need to, it's almost like I want to say, stay away from all the conversations that are being had and being sucked into those conversations and sort of using your own experience to give your general sort of experience, because what suits one does not suit the other person. And I think it's more now than ever. And look, this is not a sales spiel or anything like that, but you actually need to probably speak to an industry, not expert, but an industry specialist.
Yeah.
So to be able to formulate what you can do. I'll just go.
You're quite right there. I just feel that the immigration field is changing basically on a daily basis.
It
You read
is.
something new every day.
It is, Jan, but like since the last lot of changes that are effective on the 10th of August, nothing new has been announced as such.
Okay.
So the major changes came through in July, and they were like bam, 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 like a week after each other, those changes were put in place. That first sort of changes firstly came in when immigration said, okay, right, now those people on those 1-year work visas are now only going, or the low skilled are now only going to get 6 months. And that was like super cunning on them, I feel, because firstly, they made that announcement effective by a certain date. And then on the 27th of July, they announced ANSCO changes with those remuneration changes and said anybody below this is now only going to get a 6-month visa. So it was like from 1 year to 6 months, and that's going to hold in place until January 2022. So they reduced these 1-year visas from 3 years to 18 months effectively. They've cut it in half, and they did say openly, and you may have heard the minister saying that the reason why we've done that is to make sure employers can meet the needs or the staffing resourcing that they need to meet for the time being until we sort out our unemployment and put Kiwis in those jobs. So really it was done in favor of New Zealanders, which I understand, but I suppose
Which
as a
is a good thing,
migrant,
actually.
for a migrant, it's not a good thing. And especially if you're falling in those sorts of categories, then it's not a good thing. Now, just looking at the ANSCO changes that have been made, in regards to the or the wage median, I think those people that are, below that median wage right now, sitting on 3-year visas, and they've been able to support their families, but they need to have conversations with their employers where they need to start saying, look, I may be on $23.50 or $24. How can I increase my salary or my hourly rate so that I can meet the median wage on my next visa? Because if you're not going to meet it, you are going to get a 6-month visa, and you need to be realistic about that. So you need to look at having those conversations with employers and
What must
seeing
they earn?
exactly where you stand. Right now it's $25.50 an hour, but every November it changes and it goes up. And that's sit on at Statistics New Zealand. So that's where people need to sort of look at, especially those onshore. Are there any questions, Jan, or so far nothing?
So far, let me just see if there's any questions there. No, only somebody saying good morning to us. So,
Good morning.
guys and girls, if you've got questions this morning, please feel free to drop them. If you're on my personal page, I won't see your questions until later. On all the other pages that we are today, if you just drop your questions in the comments, we will be able to see them this side.
So I'll tell you what, yesterday somebody actually came to me and said that offshore advisors are saying that there's lots of jobs being advertised at the moment. So there's a lot of job opportunities. For one, just remember from the 10th of August or onward, immigration have postponed or suspended offshore visa processing. So if you have a job offer, they are not processing anybody that's offshore. So you're not going to have that done anyway. Now, just on the job front or the job advertising, yes, you may find an increase in job advertising, but just remember, immigration are now demanding that employers continuously advertise, even though that job is being offered to somebody and they've already applied for a work visa. So it's almost like it's not a true reflection of what is really available, because it's quite limiting, because they've already found somebody. That person's having their visa process because that person is onshore. And that job is not necessarily going to be available for somebody else.
That's right.
How
will the fact that you are onshore, you've lost your job, you're now desperately looking for a new job, you find a new job, how will that influence you? Because that's some of my clients are currently in that position. They are here, they have had a job, they lost it due to COVID, not their own fault. Now they found a different job. What now?
It's difficult because it's all on a case-by-case basis. So it really depends on whether you get a variation of conditions and continue, with the new job on your current visa, or you apply for a brand new visa.
Okay.
So it all depends on what that situation is. Because I got a call yesterday from somebody, and then he challenged me saying, but on the website it says something. And I said to him, look, I can't see exactly what you're looking at, and we have to go away and do our due diligence and make sure you meet the criteria of that particular visa and that job offer as well, and what could work, whether it's a new work visa or a variation.
That's right.
So there's no sort of straightforward answer because somebody has to go through all that information. The thing is, though, if you have lost your job, you can't sort of be seen as sitting there without a job on your existing visa for 2 to 3 months. If you call immigration, they will tell you a reasonable time, and a reasonable time to get a new job is about a month. If you can't secure yourself a new job, you need to go onto another visa, which will allow you to stay lawfully. And that other visa is a visitor visa with no work rights. So you need to be aware that those are the things that needs to happen. And I know a lot of people don't want to go on a visitor visa with no work rights because going backward is going to be difficult getting another work visa. But it's really challenging because there's no clear answer on that as to how you manage it. And I suppose that's what's stressing people out.
Yeah, going back on a visitor's visa is like throwing yourself under the bus.
It is. However, the thing is, if you've lost a job, that means you're actually no longer meeting the conditions of that particular visa working for that particular employer. Also, just remember, the employer is not necessarily dobbing you in, okay?
Yeah.
But the employer does have a duty, and they don't necessarily need to do this, but they will call immigration to actually say to them, look, this person's no longer working for us.
Okay.
So the compliance team at immigration are very aware that you no longer have a job. So I believe that the compliance team are looking at dealing with these cases where people don't have jobs, and they are going to start issuing letters saying that if you don't have a job, you need to start leaving once those borders open and those flights are available. Yeah. So you can expect that towards maybe October, depending, when we start getting flights leaving.
So that is the next thing is on the charts, is to get the people out of the country which doesn't have a job and on a visitor's visa, basically.
That's right. It will be immigration's or the country's top priority to actually have people start leaving the country. I think I read recently that there's been a few articles as well where people are saying, like the backpackers are saying, look, I'm here. I'm quite happy. I don't want to leave. But that doesn't give you a right to stay in the country. So just be aware that even like people on visitor visas that brought their parents over and got stuck and so on, and I know it's really bad in South Africa, you're possibly not looking at immigration going, yes, we'll give you another 3 months, we'll give you another 9 months or whatever. To be honest, these are not nationals of the country, and they will have to make arrangements to leave once they are able to. Yeah.
The biggest problem in this whole sphere of things is basically the fact that there's not planes on a regular basis or readily available.
And they were quite expensive as well. Yeah. So I think they're obviously working on that. They're definitely working hard in the background on that to actually get those going and moving. Because
I don't want to be repatriated. I mean, that will stuff up your whole future.
Yeah. But look, I mean, that's where it is. One other thing, so a lot of people have got 6 months extensions, automatic extensions on their visas if they're expiring from the 10th of July up to the 31st of December. So that was an additional 6 months, but only for the main applicant, the main visa holder. Okay. I would say that if you can, try and get while 6 months seems to be free, try and get a longer visa if you can, but just remember you need to meet the remuneration criteria. Otherwise, you will only be granted 6 months if you're below the median wage.
Okay. Interesting question here this morning. Can New Zealand survive without migrants?
The funny thing is, we had feedback on Tuesday from immigration liaison for the the MPs, that they represent in New Zealand. And their feedback is immigration doesn't care. They will find a New Zealander to fill that job. So I suppose, and this was for highly skilled people. And yes, we may not find people, or highly skilled people, and we'd have to look offshore. But I think probably most roles will probably be filled, because if you recall, immigration's or the government's giving apprenticeships to Kiwis to be able to upskill and so on in the trades and so on, and they're giving employers the 6 months free training. They're giving all sorts of incentives. There is actually not going to be an excuse for an employer to hire a migrant anymore, especially in those trades.
Yeah. We can talk around that one the whole day,
I know.
basically.
Look, I don't know whether people know that the government listed a list of projects, government-driven projects, where they have the highly skilled, highly remunerated people and it's quite, they've got technical skills where you cannot easily find in New Zealand, and they're only bringing in those people on those key projects. So if you are one of those people, you are going to be able to get border exemption to come in and take up those jobs. But anybody else, not at this time.
Okay. Any idea when they will start processing offshore work visas again? Would I say no? No idea.
They've suspended it for 3 months. So just remember, so August, September, October. So obviously after elections is when they're looking at. But it all depends on how they want to manage COVID, who they want to bring in, and so on. So it's all a political game, I think. Yes.
We had to go the study route as finding a job was not working. Interesting thing regarding the study job, New Zealand makes a heck of a lot of money out of foreigners studying here.
That's right, yes.
And they're not here.
That's right. And like other countries, like for instance, Australia have opened their doors to students coming in. New Zealand have decided not to. So they've probably killed that industry, with having the students, come in. And obviously these institutes aren't able to bring those people in. Yes, if you, as a person said, they couldn't find a job, so they've gone through the study route to actually be able to stay lawfully. So one is the visitor visa if you've lost your job. The other one is a study route to actually remain, and you're obviously meeting the criteria of being a full-time student on that regard. So yeah.
Good morning. Do you have any idea how long it is currently taking to process priority SMC residency?
So it's interesting because immigration actually do not have a process where they can actually know what is the priority applications and what are not the non-priority applications. So you actually have to tell them, right, this is an application and escalated through the EVE process. And then they will say, okay, right, we will assign a case officer within like 1.5 to 2 weeks or whatever. Okay. So yeah, because they don't know who's funny enough, they just don't know who is a highly remunerated or those occupational, meeting the occupational registration. So you actually have to manage it. I don't know. I can't really tell, seriously.
I just find this strange. I mean, we're living in such a beautiful country with such beautiful systems, and most of the stuff work except when you get to immigration.
Jan, I'm a New Zealander and I've been here 20 years, okay? But when you look at certain things, you go, shit, we are so backward on certain things, technology-wise, just everything. We're so backward. And it's unfortunate. We are an island. And I suppose sometimes, we have that island mentality. And we're just not as forward-thinking in certain things where we think we are, And that's the reality.
This island mentality is not too bad. I sometimes
look, it's not too bad. I'm not complaining. I've never complained in the last 20 years I've been here, to be honest, But it's the reality, though, I suppose you just get into the mood and you just carry on. You know what I mean? Because everything else works. So you have nothing else to complain about, So you just accept it, Yeah.
Question there is asking, when does the expression of interest open up to apply for residency?
We don't know. There's probably quite a few people sitting in the pool. Like, I mean, I think about 2 months ago, there was 2,500 people sitting in the pool.
Okay.
We don't know because it's suspended indefinitely, just along with the parent category as well. And it really depends because I suppose because we don't have a residence program, that's probably what the issue is. And with residents from work, that's processing. It's obviously just the skilled migrant category that's on hold. Really, I don't know.
What about the guys that got a work to residence visa?
They are able to process after 24 months. They were able to submit their paper-based application and apply for residence from work, so long as they meet all the criteria.
Okay, so that will still get attention.
Exactly. And it's always been a priority. Usually the priority for residents is always family first, then residents from work, or the work to residents go in residents from work, and then the skilled migrant category. So if you can see the priority, the skilled migrant category has fallen where it is because of that, yeah.
Okay. Another question, so I understand correctly, you cannot come into New Zealand on a visitor's visa seeking employment. Nobody can come to New Zealand on a visitor's visa.
And you're probably looking at probably January 2022 is when, you're looking at things probably opening up. If you look as well, the government's also suspended all the working holiday schemes that they have as well. So people wanting to come and work in holidays can't do that either. And that's going to be like that probably for the next 18 months. Yeah.
Okay. Another question. You said at the start we should rethink plans to migrate to New Zealand. By the sounds of it, New Zealand are making sure they don't need migrants. Should one completely abandon plans to migrate to New Zealand?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say, like any other country, they want to take care of their nationals first because of the pandemic. I mean, obviously, the government has an obligation to the nationals to make sure that they are not experiencing hardship and so on, like the wage subsidy and all those other things. And I suppose that's where they're saying, look, we can't take care of other foreign nationals if we can't take care of our own people. Plus, you're not going to, if you look at it from a political side and also being a national of the country, you're not going to be happy if a migrant's going to be taking a job from you, for instance, So each country is for their own, to be honest, and that's just the way the whole world is looking at it.
People forget the long-term project of migrating to New Zealand. Point one is to get residency as soon as possible, and the second one is to get citizenship. Once you are a citizen, you got to take the South African badge off and put on the Kiwi badge. As much as you like the Springboks, that's what you got to do, and that is when this comes into play. And they're going to say, well, New Zealand is looking after the Kiwis first, of which, like you are one, myself a resident, and becoming a Kiwi. So they are looking after us, the guys that are here that are currently building this country. They're looking after us first before they will bring in a migrant to substitute or to take any jobs further. And that's actually a very good thing, because at the end of the day, you got some job security. And it's very, very sad for the people still stuck in South Africa. Really, I've got nightmares on this, but currently they're looking really at the people here first. And that is what any country in the world is supposed to do now under these circumstances.
Absolutely, and that's what they're doing, and every other country is adopting the same thing. That's why migrants are not going to be, that's why they're not looked at. And while we find it quite unfortunate and they're in unfortunate situations, it's just the reality of it. And unfortunately, if you didn't move fast on your residence and getting the residence, then really it is on you. It's not on anybody else, because when you migrate or immigrate, you are immigrating for a long-term goal, and that should be a priority, not sitting on a temporary visa for however long.
I tell all my insurance clients that I meet up and then work visas, I say, guys, as soon as possible, get your residency. That's your number one goal. Not getting a salary increase, not getting your mother, your father down here. Get your residency first, because then nobody can say go home.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big thing. So
Just with regards to residence, I was asked the question recently, once I get my residence granted, can immigration revoke that? Or what do I need to do that they can revoke it? And yes, they can revoke it when you have your residence. And that is various things that you possibly could do that would allow them to revoke it, and you have been literally deported from the country, Um, an example would be criminal convictions. And I'm talking about, like, for instance, where a simple thing like where you were speeding and then you end up in court and you're convicted and so on. And if you do those sorts of things, that is where immigration can actually go and say, well, sorry. And you find a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of South Africans are still doing these things. They're speeding, they're not taking the rules of the country, they sort of, what is the word I'm trying to look for? They're taking it lightly, thinking that they are in South Africa and they've been comfortable, and they're actually, there's issues around that. And yes, and you can be deported and have your residence revoked. So yeah.
Well, the big thing is, most of the people in New Zealand, but not everybody, most of the people in New Zealand is law-abiding citizens. And we need to slot into that, not try to enforce our own type of self-righteous thing that we brought over from South Africa. And yes, I struggled in the beginning. I struggled to drive 30. I promise you, I really struggled. I was the guy that was on the back of people. Now I drive decent. I had to adapt. And you really need to adapt just to get that now. Quick question, your thoughts on the new immigration minister? We've got a few questions. We're going to run through them quickly.
Look, I think he's going to be in just for obviously a little while until the elections, and then he's then obviously going to slot into the role and pick up all the policies that that are in process or being in process. I don't think that immigration will make any more drastic changes or moves or anything like that until the election, and we're under 60 days. I haven't been counting how many days before the election anyway, so I don't think we are going to see much changes. Like, that first lot of changes that are going to be following on until next year, July or mid-year, is the ANSCO changes, and that is for where New Zealand employers need to get accreditation to hire migrants. So this is the first lot of changes, and so the shift is going to go, instead of having the migrants push the visas and that whole visa process, it's going to be the employers actually wanting to employ these migrants, so they have to meet the criteria. So that the ANSCO changes was the first lot that we saw.
Parental visa or parent resident visa, that's still closed? All going to stay closed?
Yes, and probably it is going to stay closed. I think there was some comments where the old minister mentioned that the remuneration criteria was a bit too high, and that was a New Zealand first push, and so on. Look, to be honest, it has never been a priority because these parents are aging. They are going to push the age of the population up, and they're really not going to be contributing to the country economically. I know their children are, but it's not a priority at the moment. So it's probably going to remain closed until probably the new residence program comes in.
Okay, this is a long one. Just asking. But it looks like they're still in South Africa. They got the essential skilled end of Feb, expired end of May. They weren't able to activate, so they're not here yet. They were asking, will we be afforded an extension on the essential skilled work visa?
I don't know. Immigration have been very quiet about everything. And in all honesty, I don't know whether those employers are still able to keep those jobs open and so on. Nobody knows. So, we don't know. Sorry, I can't comment on that. Yeah.
Okay. This is a good one. If you send your expression of interest in now, for how long will it be valid before it expires and you'll have to reapply? It looks like the person is on work to residence.
Work to residence. Okay. All right. Okay. Usually, and the way it is it remains 6 months in the pool until it falls away, and that rule is still there. So we don't know if that's going to change or how that's going to work once the drawers reopen.
Just some people saying thanks, more thanks. So
So
At
yes,
least it's like we touched some hearts out here today.
no, that's okay. In closing, I just want to say, guys, don't listen to everybody and what they're saying. I think you need to look at your specific circumstances and what you can do, because it's not a one size fits all. And I swear to you, you could have two fitters, but they could have completely different criteria to meet with residence or the work visa or so on. So each circumstance is very unique. So instead of stressing out about it and going into that negative mode and feeling depressed and so on, I think you need to reach out to either a specialist or call the contact center and ask them your questions. And you can do that anonymously without giving details and so on. So at least if you've lost your job, you can actually do that without them sort of, flagging you as being, unemployed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vanita, thank you very much, guys. Guys and girls, one of the specialists in the field is Vanita. Vanita, I've sent so many people your way, and I've heard so many good things about you. I mean, I've got people who can sing the praises every day for you and what you've done to them in the immigration space. So, thank you very much for doing the work that you are doing for South Africans out there.
Thank you.
All right, I'll just pop you off and then say goodbye, and then we can take it from there and further. Thanks. All right, that was Vanita. Thanks for everybody listening this morning. I see we had a good lot of people listening here. There's no quick fix on this, and the end is not nearly in sight yet. And there's no real end or an end date yet for us that we can actually say it's going to end at that day. I had to do an economic forecast the other day for a group of guys, and same thing there. I mean, nobody knows when it's going to end. So, but in that note, we have to say goodbye this morning, and please don't become negative. Things are going to change, and I hope it's going to change for the better for you. All right. Thanks, guys. See you all. Bye-bye.